Davis Gill.
Dennis.
Yes.
Don. Calvin.
Yeah.
Pat.
Yes.
Ricky.
Abstain.
Terry.
Yes.
Alan.
Yeah.
All right, before we get to approval of checks, let me make a couple of announcements. We got bad news and good news. The bad news is that Waste Management has been botching our service pretty bad. They still don't have everybody picked up from last week. And Kay and Pam have been fielding quite a few distraught phone calls about it and emailing back and forth with Waste Management. Waste Management is going the way of. My understanding is that they have laid off all their workers prematurely before their contract is up, and we have one more week of them. And I hope Kay survives one more week of them, but Waste Pro starts next week. This is the last week for Waste Management, and just ask the citizens to bear with poor service this week, and hopefully we'll start off with a new service with a bang next week, and they've had enough time to get their staffing up to speed, and hopefully we'll have a good participation in the curbside recycling as well. And then we'll get rid of that eyesore down there too. So that's the kind of the bad news. Good news is at least we have a new company that starts next week. Good news is we have received official word that we did get the sidewalk grant. We got $400,000 from the state. We've gotten a letter. You're going to have a copy of that letter with you, will you?
No.
Okay. It's been posted on our website, but the letter signed by Governor Bentley, a couple of other folks, Wilsonville's been awarded $400,000. I know very few details yet in that I have a meeting Friday with the grant writer, and then we have a meeting Tuesday, whatever day, October 1st is Tuesday. Tomorrow week, we meet with the state people on that, and we'll get a lot of details on that at that time. But that's really good news. That's a fabulous grant, and we haven't had that much money pouring at one time in a long time. So I'm very, very pleased with that. I hope the citizens are too. And the reason I thought of that ahead of time, thought of those announcements ahead of time, because we're approving checks. Before I ask y'all to even make a motion that we approve the check, I want to publicly state again that Waste Management check has not been signed, and I may or may not sign it at some point, or it might be for a reduced amount or something. So you're not approving that Waste Management check, even though it's laying back there. You notice I didn't sign it. So anyway, with that said, does anybody want to make a motion to approve the checks?
I'll make a motion to
Bill Davis.
They just swap places.
They just swap places.
Dennis.
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Calvin.
Yeah.
Pat.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Alan.
Yes. Okay, I don't see one here named Matt Ditton from Truett Insurance, so I think we can just kind of scratch that off and go beyond that. Town Hall roof repair. Okay, we have it in the budget. We have considerably more in the budget than what Marlon has said. Don had, if y'all recall, Don had a sheet of paper with him last time that Marlon had said $5,800. I talked with Marlon the other day. He's telling me he's absolutely sure it's going to work. I hope that's right. I'm not 100% convinced. I trust Marlon. Obviously, he's done a lot of work for me, done a lot of work for the town, done a lot of work for a lot of people in town. You know, I trust him a lot, but I tell you, that water thing in those valleys is a very, very difficult thing to fix. You know, I'd like to hear some opinions for y'all. Do y'all want to go ahead? And he can't get to it anytime soon. He's swamped. He's telling me he's 6 or 8 months out, although he wouldn't put us off that long. Do y'all want to consider voting on that tonight? You want to put it off and wait till next fiscal year and then tell Marlon to get on it then? What is y'all's pleasure on that? Don, what's your pleasure on that?
Let's vote on it.
Quicker the better. If it's leaking,
Because it's a no-brainer. If the valley had been put in right, wide enough, long enough, deep enough, whatever you want to call it, it won't leak, and it won't leak when it gets through.
Oh, you're right. I think there's about a 90% chance that's right. But I've got one of those on my house, and it doesn't always work that way.
It's a different thing altogether.
All right?
Does that require not moving out of the building while they're doing it?
I think we're gonna have to close down one part of the library temporarily.
No, you won't. It'll be one day deal.
It's gonna be loud. Have you heard that machine?
Gonna be one day deal.
We probably need to at
What
least shut
machine?
down for a half a day or something, a couple hours maybe.
What machine?
I'll tell you what. The details we can handle. If y'all want to vote on it tonight, to go ahead and hire Marlon to do it, we can work the details out later.
I make a motion, we do it.
Second.
Who's our
Davis Reds. We're spending this money from next fiscal year.
Right.
Okay. Because that's when it's in the budget.
Dennis, Don,
Yes.
Calvin,
yeah.
Pat,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Alan.
Yes.
I need to talk to you about shutting down at least a half a day on this project. Or another more, 2 hours, that'd be enough.
Well, we can talk about that. All right, Kay, you got the cleaning contract on here. You want to tell them what you did, or?
Well, I sent out a notice to all the people that I knew of that
We can think
clean
of?
houses in town, and the notice is posted as well, although somebody took the posting down at the post office. I got it.
I'm shocked.
Accepting seal bids for the following job tasks: cleaning the town hall building once a week, or your all offices, 3 restrooms, council chamber room, council workroom, library, and twice a week cleaning of 2 restrooms at Oak Meadow Park. Please come and examine the facility between 8 and 4:30 Monday through Friday. Sealed bids should be delivered to the town clerk. Deadline for bids is noon Monday, September 30th.
All right, you sent those to
I sent them
Debbie
to
Flauner and
Mike
Connie
Northcutt, Connie Skinner, Debbie Flauner, Sue Brown, Shanna Smith, and Wayne Jones.
Okay. Hopefully from that, we should get back something, and we'll hear something on that on the 30th, and we'll get that going into.
And 2 of them came today and looked at the building.
Yeah, in the next fiscal year, we'll get that going. Oh, Roger just brought this up. I'll read this. Y'all heard about the cleaning contract. Let me read this. Roger just brought this up. Dear Mayor McCarty, this letter is to advise you that your FY 2013 application for the Federal Transportation Alternatives Program funds for the sidewalks along Hebb Road and Galvin Road in Wilsonville in the amount of $400,000 has been approved. Congratulations. I am very pleased to award these federal funds to this worthwhile project. Mr. Robert J. Gilla, Alabama Department of Transportation Multimodal Transportation Planning Engineer, will be in contact with you concerning the requirements that will have to be followed in administering this project. If you have any questions concerning this matter, please call Mr. Gilla at this number. Again, sincere congratulations. Signed, Robert Bentley. Done. So, and that's on the website. If anybody wants to look. Thank you. All right, the next thing we have is the budget matters. And we've got the various budgets that we need to vote on. First, would somebody make a motion on water, since that's the one you don't have in front of you, and we didn't make any changes from that from last time?
I make a motion that the water budget as presented be approved.
Second.
Dennis,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Calvin,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Alan.
Yes.
All right, the next big fund is general fund. Does anybody want to make a motion that we accept general fund budget as proposed?
I'd like to,
I'll second.
I'd like to have a little discussion on that before we go too much further on addition of hiring a new man, which Danny Edwards, and there is the deletion of employee, I call him an ex-employee now. I've seen a copy of the letter he received that I got no idea that was even being sent out.
Why did you have any idea that a letter would be sent out? If you turned down the offer of employment that we discussed, you,
In the discussion, it was, I was under the impression it wasn't going to be an either or. It's going to have to come back to the council to see.
I never stated it that way. What I said was, and I think most everybody will agree, what I said was, we will offer him this job, and if he takes it, yes, if he doesn't, then he doesn't, and he didn't. He turned it down.
Exactly. So he turned it down, so he's terminated.
Well, Terry, what we said was, at the meeting was, we're hiring Danny Edwards in his place, and we were offering Curtis a new position, a part-time position. And I offered him that position, and he declined. And he emphatically declined.
But don't we have to vote on, I mean, we discussed it, but we never voted on that.
By voting on this budget, you're voting for it, because that's where those numbers are. And we talked about those. I actually thought y'all would ask these questions while we were looking at those numbers, because the numbers have Danny Edwards' salary in there, the deletion of Curtis's, the addition of the cleaning service contract, and the change in the park and rec budget reflective of the fact that Danny Edwards now does that. So that's where all those numbers are, and that's where all that
That's
stuff is.
That's why I want to ask the question in open meeting versus budget meeting. It's my understanding that if we would offer him employment until his full year, I don't know how to say it now. And give-
I have heard that argument. That's false, badly false. There is no plateau that matters. If you want to take retirement, you can, with the state retirement program, you can take it at 20 years, 7 months, 21 years, 2 months, 20 years, 3 months, 25 years, 8 months. It's a monthly thing. There's no plateau that matters through there. 10 matters because you vest,
Yeah.
and 15 matters because it determines when you can actually start taking it. But there's no plateau that matters there.
I think the problem here is it matters to him, and we're taking the human element out of it. Without getting ugly either way, I think we should offer him the opportunity to work until his anniversary date of December 24th of this year, which is not that much longer.
That messes the budget up pretty badly. And secondly, the human element was taken into account in that. Keep in mind, this whole deal wasn't even my idea. Okay, this was presented to me, and if you hire Danny, somebody's got to go. Okay, I actually came up with the plan for the part-time, and because the human element concerned me. But it's almost like no good deed goes unpunished there, because there's been a little hoopla around it, and I was emphatically told, no. It wasn't just I appreciate the offer, but I don't think so. I've got other plans or something like that. It was no.
Well, I can understand that character too.
And so I was trying to factor the human element in and please everybody on this. You know, and I was very explicit in budget meeting and in executive session. Although most of it was actually over budget meeting. I was very explicit as to what the plan was. And when the offer was made, there were others there.
I think you may have intended to be explicit. I never got the point of it's either part-time or no time. I never received that point.
Well, I don't think we could have hired Danny.
I'm sorry you didn't catch that. We didn't hide that. That was quite openly stated, repeated. You know, and I even told you, if you recall, I even told you that what we would need to do is that if the offer went to the employee we're hiring, then the next thing would be to go offer the part-time to Curtis, and I would have to give him a deadline as to when to respond. And actually, he didn't even respond. I basically had to get him to call me.
I think what Terry referred to is I thought that when we came back to this meeting, you were going to make the recommendation and get an answer and then come back to the council for our approval or our vote on it. I think that's what Ricky and Terry insinuated, that it was maybe a misunderstanding in the back when we were talking.
No misunderstanding except that perhaps maybe y'all didn't get, I didn't explicitly say it in the budget.
I do remember you saying if we decide to hire Danny, I'll bring it back before the council. Or if Danny accepts the position, we'll bring it back before the council, or something to that effect.
For simple ratification.
Or something to that effect, yeah. I don't know where the December 23rd date comes in, but
Neither do I.
I know.
That's supposed to be his anniversary day to give him an even year of retirement. I don't know what difference it makes.
I don't think it makes it one bit of difference.
Besides to him.
There's a couple of things here that, I talked to Lee Municipality today, and did they call you? Because I had to get permission, you had to give them permission to talk to me. And after talking to both Rob and Warren King,
Actually, the league didn't call it downtown law firm.
right, Porter and Hasselberg called you. That's the employee hotline. That's who they refer council members to, if they're on retainer. And if there's an employee issue, that's who you call or give a council member permission to talk to.
I've never been referred out by the league before.
So the league did, Rob did refer me out to them and said, hey, you got, 30 minutes, and then everything after that, we have to start your building. But in talking to both of them said it's the same thing that I expressed in the back right there. That you take an employee that's been here 21 years and terminating without any documentation of past behavior.
How do you know there's no documentation?
Because I asked you, you said there's not. We'll create a file if you need one. That was your words.
Actually, the documentation is not of any specific incidents except the ones that I talked about.
Right.
But there's a ton of documentation as to past stuff that Roger has. I don't. I've not seen it.
On paper. There's evaluations, there's disciplinary.
There's no
hearings.
evaluations.
There's no evaluation, there's no discipline documentation that the city ever went through with any mayor. Going back to, did you hire him?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and then he was here for several years with you, and then with Jake,
Yes.
and then with Miss Live Oak, and now with you for a year. And there's never been any, I don't know that anybody has ever formally or told Curtis, you're doing a bad job, you need to do something different to change, or you're going to be terminated. We just made a decision within the last couple of weeks that we're going to terminate him. And I don't feel good about it, because after talking to both of them, they said the same thing. You know, this guy, if you want to start evaluating and give him a 6-month period, you put him on notice, say, look, we're gonna evaluate you for the next 6 months, and if we can document that you can't do this job, you've kind of done that, but not documented. And as you know, in your business and my business, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. You don't-
That's not necessarily true, because every single change in employment is not documented in every single place. And it is
This is not a change of employment, this is a termination. This is the guy's been here for 21 years. And now we're terminating. Because how long have you known Curtis? 5, 6, 7 years?
5, 6 years, something like that, maybe more.
And during that time, have you ever discussed how poorly he works here? When you were on the council prior to becoming mayor?
With him,
I never have.
You're not supposed to.
I don't think formally I can as a council member. I can't tell Roger, we're gonna terminate you. That's not my job. That's, your job. I just don't.
actually, it's Roger.
I'm talking about.
Roger is the superintendent and his supervisor.
No, as a council member, I can't discipline Roger.
Correct.
I can't do that. That's what.
That part's correct.
Right. So, as the past mayors, 3, number 4, that he's worked for, none of y'all, you 4 people, have expressed anything to him to indicate that he's doing a poor job.
Mr. Mayor,
And that is not entirely relevant, because the way it works now, Roger is his supervisor.
Has Roger indicated that?
And we're not going to have a cross-examination in open meeting about who has done what when, like that. We can't do that. If you want to set up a lawsuit, keep going the way you do, you set up a lawsuit. You know, and that's just, I don't
Have you ever
understand.
doing the right thing?
Of course,
Okay.
of course.
I don't feel like this is the right thing.
And I try to do the right thing in everything I do, Dennis.
If you feel this is the right thing, then that's your opinion. It's not my opinion. My opinion is that the council, and I'm looking over, it's page 29 here, on the
What's the right?
mayor's power of dismissal, and there's a lot of legal stuff here, so I'm not going to try to pretend that I know what they're talking about. But it does talk about, the mayor must grant a hearing to the appointee concerned before his dismissal is final. That's State versus Thompson. And I think the attorney has the right to waive such hearing. I just don't feel like this was the proper way that we should have gone about terminating the board.
Well, I can understand your concerns on that. What's right for the taxpayers? What gives Wilsonville their money's worth? What is the correct thing, the fact that it
And
is
the past
not-
mayors are not doing their job, and Roger's not doing his job, because nobody documented anything.
that you know of. So, the fact that it's gone on, as even you say, as long as it has, does that mean that we're locked in and we're absolutely can't do anything about it? I mean, are we going to?
What I'm like.
You can do something about it, but in my opinion, you can't just up and fire the guy and then just kind of come back and say things didn't work the way they should have. I could never fire a man under those circumstances when I was in management. Had to
He's
have
been in management.
documentation. Had to have-
I'm in management, I've been there for 10, 15 years, and I've got 63 employees, and if I've got one that's been there 10, 15 years, I just can't make a decision and say, hey, Sheriff, this guy's not working out, and we terminate him.
Mr. Mayor,
That's,
I know that, I know I'm not supposed to speak, but would you open that envelope and look at that picture, please? I mean, it's not a bond.
No, I'm not going to open it on.
Yes, well, I'll show it to you then. I'll show it to you. You see, the little boy right here, this is Cameron. He died August the 3rd of 1993. If you've ever lost a child, then you change. Am I not right? No, I'm not doing this legal. This is Cameron. I kept him. He drowned at 4 years old. That person, that family changes. But Curtis kept on going, doing his work. He might have talked to people, but he never stopped picking up garbage or doing his work. It's not right.
What I would like to recommend is that we retain Curtis Live Oak through December 24th, give him his anniversary of a full year cycle. I'll put that in the form of.
Couple of things. There's already a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded. Couple of things. Y'all, I brought this up. I called every single council member prior to last meeting and gave y'all a heads up as to what the plan might be. Okay, I presented it to y'all in open budget meeting, and we talked about it. And I said, I'm not doing this. If y'all all object and say it's a bad plan, I won't do this. But everybody said do it. Okay, then we go out and hire Danny Edwards. Now do you want me to go back and tell him, oh, I was just faking? I didn't mean it. Okay? Do you want me to recall the bids that we sent out on the cleaning service? We were just faking, we didn't mean it. I mean, I tried to give you a heads up, and I tried to do the absolute over-the-top best I could for the situation. The situation is that the town's taxpayers get a far better deal hiring the new man. Okay? I seriously doubt there's a single one of you that disagrees with that. If so, say so.
I know we
Okay, all right. Then we come up with, well, gee whiz, hate to be so bad. Let's see, and I promise you, nobody else came up with that plan. I solely came up with that. Okay? Trying to do the best right thing I could. Okay? And I presented that to y'all. And I didn't get any feedback like this. I mean, you can't say one thing one time and then come back the next time, and unless there's like some revelation of new stuff.
I beg to differ with you because I was the first one that sat back there and said that there's no been progressing this one at all. There's been no documentation. I've repeated this from the very first
The
time.
documentation thing you said.
And I will still, to this day, defend that man sitting back there because the rest of us, if you want to include me in that, didn't do a good job of letting him know that he wasn't doing what we expected. Never did.
And I back Dennis up on the documentation, and like I said, I never understood the intent of it's either this or this. It wasn't presented to me like it was going to be a done deal. Just never understood it. I'm not that bright all the time.
I thought that when you were going to talk to both of them and see what they decided they were going to do, then it was going to come back to us, and we would make a decision based on their decision, not just.
I didn't think that
We
was
made
going
it last week.
to walking paper mailed out before we ever had another meeting on talking about it. That's my biggest problem with it.
What I don't understand is, if the man said no, then no is no. He wouldn't accept it.
He didn't want a part-time job, he wants a full-time job.
Well, he was offered. His job was done away with, because he was hired to all guard.
In a stressful situation like that, you're not gonna make a rational. Somebody, if the sheriff came to me and told me then she got a part-time job starting tomorrow, I'd probably say, I'm not gonna work here either.
Okay.
You know,
To be exact on that, it wasn't-
2020, I probably would.
To be exact on that, it wasn't trying to give time to, the last day of the appointment was September 27th, trying to give a heads up, and also trying to give a heads up as to some time to make a decision on the part-time status. And I tried to give some time so that there was some notice.
Mr. Mayor, may I comment?
Sure.
Curtis Live Oak has been the most accommodating person who has ever worked in this town. Ever. And to give him, yank the rug out from under him at this point, I think is a criminal act. I think it's a horrible thing to do. And besides that, don't you have more employees? You say to hire Danny, fine, that's good. But do you have anybody else you could kick off the payroll? Like Tim, he's a short time. He hasn't been here very long. He hasn't been here 22 years. Why are you taking Curtis out and leaving Tim in? Or are you leaving Tim in?
Yes.
Why?
The better of the two worlds.
He has demerits. He has a paper trail. Tim, I'm saying.
Well, with all due respect, trying to do the best thing for the town. Absolutely trying to do the best thing for the town. There's no agenda but that. But we can't afford just to keep hiring more people without.
You've got a guy you can cut off. You've got a short timer you can cut off. I know you're trying to do the best for the town, and I think every other councilman is. I don't understand why, if you've got to drop one, Danny can beat Rogers. It seems that in order to get Danny on, you've got to move Curtis out. Curtis is not in that position. It seems to me that Danny's going to take a lot better role, a higher role in the job than Curtis or Tim could do together.
Well, that's what we anticipate. You know, I'm sorry y'all misunderstood what was said at the last meeting, but I don't understand why you did. I'm just not, I was extremely explicit. I mean, and I asked permission, basically.
You asked permission to, it was my understanding, you asked for permission to discuss it with him. And I thought.
I was going to hire.
And then you were going to bring it back before the council for our approval.
Or ratification is the word I use. It's for ratification. I just don't know. This is one of these things where I feel like Roger and I did our homework on this. I mean, we talked about this extensively. We made an explicit explanation to y'all. Okay, I'm flabbergasted that Terry, you and Dennis would think that I didn't mean it, or I was going to change my mind, or I'm not sure how you get out of it that I really wasn't going to do it.
No, it was my understanding that you were going to discuss it with him, so I already said that. And then bring it back before us.
For ratification.
That's, I assume that.
That meant permission.
Yeah.
Now, I was getting permission, and I was gonna get ratification. Ratification doesn't mean approval. It means just stamp. Oh, yeah, it's official now. Did you understand it any differently, Donna? Calvin, you and Roger were with me when we had the conversation. Did I say anything that could be misinterpreted or misunderstood?
No, not while I was there, you did.
So what do y'all want to do?
Curtis,
We got ourselves in a little mess. We got ourselves in a mess now
we got a
because
motion and a second.
Has,
Roll call.
has Curtis indicated that he wants to retire? Okay.
No.
Have you given him papers to fill out to retire?
Yes.
Is he eligible to retire in December?
my understanding is he's eligible to retire now. You
Can
can't
we
get a
get-
check until November.
Can we give him the opportunity to retire instead of terminating?
Sure. And
Don't you
that,
think that would be,
and that really is what it boils down to.
but there's a big difference between terminating somebody and allowing them to retire.
Well,
If he makes the decision that he wants to retire,
He kind of should be able to pick the day.
if he said, okay, I understand, I see the writing on the wall, I get it.
November 1st,
I would like to retire.
November 1st,
If that's, I don't know what the day is, I mean, I don't know what the, that would be something he'd have to discuss with what our safety yards, whoever.
I see.
but the eligibility is there now.
Right. So if we give him the opportunity to retire, would you accept that?
Of course, that's the same thing.
It's a big difference. If
Oh,
I
yeah.
get terminated from the sheriff's office and I'm allowed to retire, that's just kind of like those two pieces of paper, you know, when you get in trouble. Let's sign those two pieces, you want to sign this resignation or you want this termination paper right here? Well, I'd rather retire. You know, there's a big
And
difference.
I'm with that 100%. I have no problem with that.
You know, I think that we need to give him the opportunity to retire.
That is no problem. And that really is what we're trying to do.
Would you agree with that, Terry?
Yes. I don't understand.
And two, that has been explicitly offered as well.
Right.
Okay. And you've given papers, right, or at least tried to?
Yes.
Okay. And that is explicitly available and always was. Okay, I didn't do anything to try to take that away. That's always been there.
I have a question. Is he eligible for unemployment compensation when terminated?
That I don't know. Social Security, state retirement, I'm sure that one I don't know.
I asked that question myself. And normally under termination you are, but the fact that he is of Social Security age,
Probably.
that may not be effective.
Yes.
In other words, if you're available, if you can draw Social Security, they may not let you draw unemployment. I never did get an answer on that.
That wouldn't
And I
necessarily.
don't know the answer to that either.
I think we should let him have the option to retire
And I'm all for that. That was never talked about.
December 24th of this year.
That causes a problem with the budget. And
That was very adjustable.
I'm sorry y'all didn't get that when I was talking about that, but I explicitly pointed those numbers out on the budget, thinking somebody, I kept on asking questions, nobody had any questions.
Again, I think people were a little bit confused over what transpired, and I'm glad Terry brought it up, because it has opened it up for discussion that I thought was going to be on the agenda and take place tonight.
just kind of hidden budget.
I kept thinking,
It's not hidden. I mean, it's,
Well,
in fact, we highlighted the numbers and highlighted the changes.
Yeah, but there is no agenda for tonight, termination occurs liable. No, I see it on
Nope,
there anyway.
that's not there.
No, but approval of budget would be termination occurs liable, correct?
Correct. Because that's what we talked about in the context of the budget.
when you were talking about, and this is just getting technical here, when you were talking about ratification at this meeting, would that have been something that should have been in the ratification of
The budget,
termination?
the budget ratifies these changes that y'all, I thought, authorized in the last meeting.
It's getting fuzzy now.
That's why we had, and if you recall, all this was in budget meeting.
Yeah, I'm glad we brought all this up.
All this was in budget meeting.
I'm glad Terry's kind of,
Curtis, if we change the budget for you to go out to the end of the year, does that make you happy?
Certainly would. Certainly would.
do you know what the official date, have you talked to RSA at all?
That date stuff is false. I don't want to go there. I'm not going to listen to that part of it anymore because that's just not correct. I hate to keep beating a dead horse, it's just wrong. Okay, if you get credit for each month, there's no plateau that matters here. If there was a plateau that mattered, if it changed the vesting, the amount, the whatever, if it was 21 years even, or 22 years even, or 30 years even, I understand that, but there is no such plateau. We're talking about something that doesn't exist.
We're talking about human aspect and the day chosen to retire, not the day chosen to be terminated. So I would like
Get a check.
to,
You don't have to go a month.
we got a motion on the floor to approve the budget in a second.
And so Terry's calling the question.
Well, if you approve the budget, then we're approving $39,000.
Yeah, and nothing, so.
We're gonna have to, are we not gonna have to amend the budget? $39,000, Secretary,
We'll have to
change
amend
those
it.
numbers. and-
You gonna put Danny Edwards on from beginning work?
Until Curtis retires.
No.
You think he's going to still hold the job?
I mean, do we have the money?
Yeah, we got the money, well, we gotta do that one.
Transition phase between,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, time to get the
payroll for a
around.
month or two.
What are you talking about, what, 3 months?
We're talking about taxpayer money too.
Yeah.
We'd rather keep him, we'd rather keep him and do the moral thing. Is that wrong?
I'm not doing anything immoral. I'm trying my best to do the absolute moral thing. And
You're wrong.
I'm not. I'm trying my best to do the right thing from every standpoint I can think of.
So we're trying to-
You are free to disagree. All right. There's a motion. Terry has to call the question on the motion. Okay, to make sure y'all understand, if you vote on the motion that's been seconded, if you vote, Terry's calling the question, if you vote for that budget, then what you have done is you have changed from Curtis to Danny and all the other changes we talked about with janitorial and all that. You changed from that. Okay, that's if you vote for that budget. If you do not vote for that budget, then we'll just have to come back and do another budget. So that was supposed to be done in budget workshop, so we'll just come back and do another budget.
Sounds good, we'll come back to it next month. Yes, sir. We need a motion to change that
But you,
budget.
well, Terry's called. Terry's
We
called.
already had a motion to approve in a second.
We've got a motion to approve right now.
Approve the budget as is.
Approve the budget as is. That's what's on the floor right now. And just to make sure everybody understands, if you vote for that budget, then you are voting for the changes that we talked about at last meeting. If you do not vote for that budget, then we'll have to come back and do another budget and talk about employment issues at that point again.
I mean, let's be honest, I mean, how do you feel, Captain? I mean, I know there was some confusion over it, but do you think he should be given the opportunity to retire?
Well,
We really shouldn't.
he had the opportunity when I sat in the meeting with the mayor, when we talked to him, he had the opportunity to, retire if he wanted to, or if he wanted to work part-time for the next couple of years, something like that. And I talked to the mayor and talked to Pat, and I talked to Ricky down here about bringing it up to $10 an hour. And that's what we had planned on doing, and he turned it down.
Right, part-time.
Yeah, and,
Man, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? I
he
was
told
gonna-
me he would not vote against me to kill it.
If council wanted to do that, and the council wanted it, I'd stay out of the way.
And he told me that, sitting in the meeting. I was in the meeting and talked.
I don't think, we're not under the gun here to approve the budget tonight. I mean, we can go back and discuss this and come up with something that can work. It's gonna, let everybody kind of calm down and, relax and make a little bit better decision. I really feel like we're not really rushed into it, because you're right, we openly discussed everything we talked about back here openly. There was a little bit of confusion over some terms, and I'm not the best at understanding everything.
I did not understand it, I did not, I promise you.
Well, I think there was a little confusion, because I believe it was you who suggested that we actually terminate another party.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So I don't know how, you didn't understand we're talking about termination. And everybody agreed, yes. And he wanted to add another one.
It's got to come back forward, so, and that's what it is.
Actually, it
That's
doesn't.
where we're at right now.
Actually, it doesn't have to. The mayor can fire, and then if the employee wishes, you come back before the entire council as a body to oversee it.
Well,
So actually, I didn't have to do that.
Well, that's where we're at right now, then.
No, it's not.
Well, yes,
It's not
it is.
where we're at all. You are completely wrong about that.
Did you not?
I absolutely
Let it
have,
Friday.
no, listen to me. I absolutely have the right to fire somebody, period. Okay? And if they don't like it, they can come back before y'all and talk about it.
That's where we're at.
No, that's not where we're at. That's not at all where we're at. Because that request to come back as a review board of the mayor's action has not been made, and this is not a formal hearing that does that. So that's incorrect. I absolutely have the right to fire.
I wouldn't have it any other way,
But what I did was, and this may be my mistake, I actually ran it past y'all first.
well, you hadn't got it ratified, so that's the problem.
Well, that may be the problem. But if you understand what ratification means, it doesn't mean approval. I asked for approval last time. And you were along with it just like everybody else was. Unless I'm mistaken, unless I misunderstood something.
My point was approval to go talk to them about it. That was what,
But that's not
we
what
all
was said.
We all talked about it, and it was like you were asking us, hey, can I go talk to them? It's kind of like the deal with the bank building down here with Miss Robin. We weren't really sure, and she went out and bought the bank. And then everybody sat up here on the council like, what the heck, we didn't tell them to buy the bank. It's the same thing here.